Hey everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. Actually, this is the first webinar for the year, so hopefully I'm not too rusty and I will click all the right buttons. So thank you for joining us today. It's going to be short and sharp today. It's going to be for half an hour. So if you do have any questions and you're thinking about them during the webinar, by all means, type them into the question panel as we go through, and if we have some time at the end, we will run through those. Otherwise, you can always send them to me via email and we can get back to you with any specific questions. This webinar is part of our ongoing series and part of the Small Business Digital Champions. It will be loaded onto our website. The recording and any attachments will be available in the next 4 to 5 days. And if you haven't had a chance, I'd recommend jumping onto our website and having a look at past webinars if you haven't been part of those. On the screen now is you can see what the screen looks like. It actually goes down the page a little bit further. I just couldn't include it all there, but you'll see the top box here is webinars. So that's where I'll be saving these recordings, these specific small business digital champion webinars. Now, the reason we're talking about online safety is that no doubt every other day you get an email or you get a phone call and someone trying to perhaps scam you or tell you to change some passwords on your computer, or that you need to log into your bank because it's been locked, and often it's staff members, not necessarily you, that are getting these emails. So we thought it was important to run this topic, and I'll shortly hand over to Michelle, who will speak, I guess, more broadly as well about how to protect your business. But, more and more of these online scams are happening and they're getting more sophisticated, and it only takes one click of a wrong link to, really disrupt your business or cost you a lot of money. And I know firsthand of people who have lost significant amounts of money due to these online scams. So you may have heard some of these terms: ransomware, phishing, malware, spyware, keystroke loggers. I've attached a handout in the attachments on the side panel there. So I've gone into a little bit more detail about these terms because we might not be able to cover them all in this webinar. So I can also send that out to you if you're not able to download it off the control panel there. Now we wanted to, I'm going to hand over to Michelle, and those of you who joined us last year, Michelle has presented 2 other webinars which were great. So by all means go back to that page I showed you before and have a listen to those. But before I hand over to Michelle, we wanted to do a short poll, and this is where it's going to get a little tricky because I haven't done one for a while. So I'm going to launch the poll. There's a question there. If you can answer that, it should come up on your screen. Let me see if that's going to launch. If not, I might just have to ask the question. Let me see. Let's launch that poll. Sorry about that. That should be now up on your screen. So you can just take your mouse and click the relevant answer to those. Hopefully that will work for everyone. And we'll just give it a few seconds and then I'll read out the answers because I'm not sure if Michelle's going to be able to see them or not. So great, we'll give that a few more seconds. Fantastic. I might close that off now. We've got the majority of answers in there. So let me just see if I can bring that up on screen and share that. There you go. There's the results. So hopefully, Michelle, you can see those. You're in the audience there. So that's That's really interesting. Yeah, fantastic. Alrighty, well, we will get moving. As I said, over to Michelle. Michelle is joining us from the Central Coast. Hopefully the weather is okay down there and you don't have any issues with the rain that we've had in the past. So let me just hand over to you, Michelle. And hello, hello. How are you?
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Good. We haven't spoken really. We've emailed but not spoken. So I hope you're well.
Very well, thank you. It's beautiful here on the Central Coast today. Nice
Fantastic.
and hot and no rain and no fires, so that's a good thing.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we were suffering from both of those. So I will leave it to you, Michelle. Let me see.
Carrie, can you see my screen?
I don't think I can see your screen. Let me just hide the poll. Let's have a look. What do we see here? Okay, that's it.
Which screen do you
Okay,
see?
so I can see all your slides. So
Can you see does it have a black background or just a slide?
it does have a background.
Okay, let me just see if I can swap. Now do you see just one big slide?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Okay, fantastic. Hello, everybody. Hopefully everyone is well. We are today talking about password protection, fraud, security. I'll go over a few housekeeping issues. We will have the webinar available, as Carrie said, and there will be time for questions at the end. We would love your feedback and requests for additional topics. And I must disclaim that all information I provide is general in nature and should not be used to make business decisions without seeking the advice of your accountant, software providers, or legal advice. Today's presentation, passwords and cybercrime, password storage and management, fraud using your email, two-factor authentication, and if we get time, MyGov ID replaces Auskey. We've been talking about moving to digital and finding ways to increase your efficiency and regain your time. In any move towards digital processes, we need to improve your security. The need is paramount. Today, we'll focus on these risks that you need to be aware of and of the changes you need to make today. For keeping your business safe online, knowing how safe your business and your data is actually, and building a business is hard work, complacency leads to theft. I'm sure many of you have heard the phrase cybercrime, but possibly not how it affects you and your business. So let's review the questions you need to ask. We ran a poll a few minutes ago, and I didn't give an option not to answer to say all of the above, but I'm quite sure many of you could have said all of the above, and that is really scary. 40% of you tape your computer to your tape your password to your computer. That's really scary. So, do you store passwords on a device and use auto login? How many characters is your password? Do you use it repeatedly? Every time you put a password in your computer, do you say yes when asked if you want the device to remember your password and login details? Do you write the passwords in a book or tape them to a PC? 40% of you obviously do. Do you have a spreadsheet labeled My Passwords or a document on your computer? Remote access scammers absolutely love these. People save them in emails, Excel documents, Word documents. This is all a really bad idea. And if you answered yes to any of these, I'm going to show you how easy it is to hack into your computer and steal all of your passwords in less than 2 minutes. I'm not a hacker, but I can still do this very, very quickly. So hacking, okay? I'm going to use Google Chrome as an example, but the process is essentially the same on Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Explorer. So you open your browser, you go to the 3 dots at the top right screen, we call them breadcrumbs, and then you click on Settings on the drop-down menu. I've highlighted these all in red so you can follow. When the Settings menu is open, click on Passwords. It's got a little key next to it. In any move towards digital processes, we have to stop doing this. Having these autofill sections is making you extremely vulnerable. So after we get to the password section, the menu's open and you can see on there I have offered to save passwords unticked. On yours, it's probably green. And auto sign in unticked. Again, on yours, it's probably green. And then you see where I have the Google account circled. On most screens, under that saved passwords, all of your passwords will appear. When I go into those Google account passwords, I can export every single password you've ever used just by hitting that export button. And this is what it looks like. I had to actually get my son to give me one because I don't have any. They're all clean. But on this one that he's working on, he works in IT, he has access to their bank account details, their MailChimp login, which means I have access to every contact they've ever sent invoices to, and I can send out invoices, bank account, requests for payments, anything I want to them, and I can log into the Xero account because I probably don't have two-factor authentication activated. I hope you're really scared by that. And the ATO has just released an article on this, the importance of getting it right, getting your passwords right, getting the links right, getting everything right. Did you know that a simple statement like, I don't like pineapple on my pizza, as a password can take more than 1 year and cost scammers $107,000 to crack? The reason it's a great password is it's easy to remember. It has 35 characters. It has an apostrophe, an exclamation mark, and spaces. And this is just one of the tips that you'll be able to find and that I'll give you links to protect yourself. If you're using any of those techniques that I just showed you how to break into, or using your dog's name to log into your bank account and your password's under 9 characters, the likelihood is that the hackers already have your password. I mentioned password storage apps. I think something's gotten out of track. Let me just check this again. Okay. With your passwords, everyone must have their own passwords. They should never be shared. You should never use your same password on all sites. Your passwords should be 12 or more characters or a phrase. They should never be saved to devices. And you need to enable two-factor or multi-factor authentication. We'll go into this in a little bit. In password storage, Password Manager is essentially all of those old password books that you've been using to write everything in, or those Excel spreadsheets, or all the things taped to all the computers, all in one place, but digital and encrypted. They could be the passwords that you're currently storing on your phone in your contacts, which is another big no-no. We call Password Manager a virtual vault. You need to remember one master password, and that gives you access to all of your other passwords. A few I know of are LastPass, Dashlane, Keeper, 1Password, and TrueKey. Some even have free versions meant for home use, and some have business editions. I personally use LastPass as it ticks all the boxes that I require. With password managers, you get password generation. So the app creates a password that you can use. The app will analyze your current passwords for weaknesses and even upgrade them for you. They'll auto-fill and auto-login. Earlier, I said you should never save passwords to your devices. This is critical, but you can have your secure password manager auto-fill and auto-login for you. A big reason I use the password manager is I only have to remember my master password. I don't have to remember any of the others on any of my devices, and they're all linked up. With LastPass, it has password auditing and updating features, so you can identify and eliminate the weak and duplicate passwords with just a mouse click or two. Secure sharing means I can have a secure folder for each of my clients, each of my businesses, with all their passwords, all my secure notes, and I can share this folder with my client so that when my client changes a password, it changes in my folder as well. Another tip I found very useful is I can give my husband or my family access to our most important passwords and documents in case of emergency. I've seen this happen time and time again, where the husband or the wife or the partner or the business partner has no idea of the passwords that are necessary for a death in the family or an accident. Password managers have two-factor authentication, and I'll go into that in a little bit. And protection for other business or personal data. It stores credit card numbers. It stores personal data for autofill web forms when you're making a purchase, signing up for a service, or paying a bill. The ATO and the banks now require all software companies to have two-factor or multi-factor authentication. I know it's a pain. It's one of those things. But because of all the fraud, the phishing, the malware we have to protect ourselves. With this, you require an app on your phone to put a code into the system. You've probably been using it for online banking for a long time. This may seem painful, but again, cybercrime activity is not slowing down, so it's very necessary. This keeps others out of your data. There are many you can use. There's Google Authenticator, there's Microsoft Authenticator. What you have to remember is that you must have your phone to get into your software, and no one else can use your login. When installed, if someone's trying to access your account, you'll be notified before they can do any damage. If you get a notification on your phone for a login that isn't you, you know someone has your password, and it's time to change that password right away. Do not ignore this. It's going to become even more important that you learn how to use these, as the ATO will be introducing RAM, or Relationship Access Manager authorization, that is replacing Auskey. This is coming next month, and you'll be required to nominate others to act on your behalf using RAM. An example, when you log into Xero will ask you to enable two-factor authentication. You download the Google Authenticator app on your phone, and in Xero, you use the app on your phone to scan the QR code, which is the funny little black and white square. Xero will link to Google Authenticator, and a 6-digit number will display. This number will change every 60 seconds. You enter this code into Xero when you log in. I must say, make sure that you also set up an alternate email and enter the security questions, or when you change phones, you will not be able to get in. The best practice is to disable the authenticator on your old phone before you install your new phone, or the process is much more painful. And I've done it thousands of times with my clients. Every authenticator with software works essentially the same way. You open the authenticator, get the number, you key it in. If you lose your phone, you have no authenticator and no way to get in without these safeguards. So why is all of this so important? Many of you have heard the stories, or maybe even experienced your credit card being stolen and used. This is painful. It can take many months to sort out. The stress of finding out someone has stolen your money, reporting the crime to the police, replacing the cards, redirecting all of your automatic payments, and proving that you didn't make the purchases. Lately, an identity theft scam has seen many small businesses lose even more, and these are funds they cannot get back. In addition, if you're sending or storing your employees' tax file numbers, personal details, banking information in your email, you're allowing others to steal the identity of your employees. This can open your business up to endless liability issues and cause you to have to report yourself to the Cybercrime Commission. I can assure you this is not something you want to subject yourself to. Identity thieves can get your business details by breaking into your business and stealing your records physically, taking a photo of your business or employee details, stealing your passwords, account logins, or Auskey details, obtaining access through your data through legitimate means, for instance, a malicious employee targeting the vulnerabilities in your systems and security controls, using compromised emails with malicious links or programs, sending emails to fish for information from your business, and exploiting non-secure or easy access software that doesn't have two-factor authentication. So how do you know? How do you know if someone's already got your details? There's a site called haveibeenpawned.com. It's a site that collects email addresses and passwords that have been collected from publicly disclosed data breaches. You enter your email and it will advise you which sites you have been compromised on so that you can investigate further and see where you need to make changes. Very simple. So here's an example of fraud and identity theft. This is one of my clients this happened to. I'm going to call them Demo Company. They sent an invoice out to their customer, Pinnacle Management, for $11,000, and it was a PDF on their email. The hacker got into their email, opened the invoice PDF, and changed the bank details on the invoice to their own. The hacker even added a line in the cover email stating they had a new bank account. So of course the customer, Pinnacle Management, paid the $11,000 to the hacker. A few weeks later, Demo Company sent out a statement showing that Pinnacle Management, their invoice was still outstanding. The bookkeeper called Demo Company to advise that the amount had been paid and sent them the receipt from their bank. Demo Company cannot recover the cost of the funds as the invoice came from their email. The bank and insurance will not replace the funds as the invoice has to be marked as unrecoverable. This can happen with any software and any email provider. I had another one come across my desk yesterday for a new client, and the covering email was lovely. It said, oh, I know it's a pain to go and change the bank details, but here's our new account. It was a fraudulent account. It's just so simple. Here's another example. Same client, Demo Company, gets their employees to send their tax file number forms, their employee details, their bank details, their visas, their everything to their email, and then they store them in a folder in their email. The hacker knows the employer's password to get in, so they find this information and they sell it to buyers for later use. So they now have their personal full name, tax file number, date of birth, address, bank details, and a lot of other details to identify them and even take out a credit card. Getting a photo of them, of the person online, is pretty easy. So how do we prevent this? It's really not that hard. And at first, yes, it's going to be like anything that you change. It's going to be a pain. But in the long run, dealing with all the fraud and the pain that that causes is going to be much, much, much worse. So the first thing you need to do is, if you get bank detail changes, find an accurate phone number, not the one on the invoice, and physically call the company and the person and find out if their bank details have been changed. The phone number of the invoice is almost always changed. In addition to using a password manager and two-factor authentication, you need to look after your email and devices. If private information is sent or received via email, it should be deleted immediately from both the inbox and from the bin. The personal information should only be stored in a secure location, such as Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, something that's constantly encrypted and backed up. Change the password on your router, on your Wi-Fi modem, as most of those are set to default to login as admin and password as admin. If hackers get into your router, they hold your whole business to ransom. There are very few businesses that know how to change this, but Google it. It's actually really simple. Software and device updates. These, again, are a pain to run during business hours, but they're necessary to protect your business. What I mean is, when Windows says you need to update it, update it. They add new features, they add new firewalls, they add new things for your protection. You need to update them. That includes your phone. Again, they make changes, it's a pain, but the only way that you're going to stay protected is to keep them up to date. Make sure that you have a device password. If anyone can sit down at your computer or your phone or whatever, they have access to anything they choose and can send information to themselves or anywhere else. Your phone may have access to information others can use to get into other sites. Adding a password, face scan, fingerprint scan, and authenticator will prevent this. In addition to that, by having an auto lock on your phone, it will make your battery last much longer, which I know I need. Malware protection is very simple with a program like Malwarebytes. It also has a free version. Simple to run, it takes no time. Antivirus protection, and keep it up to date. The virus is constantly changing. There are many out there, they all offer features that you don't need, like VPN protection usually. But AVG offers a free version, and a lot of others offer free versions that are very good. Contrary to popular belief, a Mac does nothing to protect you from malware or viruses. In fact, there's currently more active malware on Macs than on Windows platforms. Remember, every night you need to log out of your computer, out of your software each day. Otherwise, anyone can sit down and help themselves to your data and steal your computer or steal your whole computer and have easy access. Finally, having automated bank feeds in cloud-based software allows you to know instantly if funds are taken from your account, way before a bank statement is reconciled. From March 2020, the Auskey you may have been using for many, many years to lodge your BAS and your PAYG will no longer be available. The ATO has made this move to increase their security, as they did not have reliable ways to ensure that people within companies did not share logins. This provides streamlined, flexible, and secure access to government services. This is not MyGov. It's very different. MyGov ID, I know it's crazy. They shouldn't have named him so close, but MyGov ID is different to MyGov. You must provide a 100-point check using your smartphone, and this will prove to the government who you are. You'll need things like a current Medicare card, a passport, a photo ID. There's lots of things that you're going to need to do this. You need to download the MyGov ID on your smartphone, iOS 10 or later, Android 7 or later. So if your device is not up to date or not a smartphone, it will not work. You need to have your identity items ready. And once you have your MyGov ID, the authorized person, the director in the business, can use the new RAM or Relationship Authorization Manager. Yes, I know, lots of new terms. And this allows you to act on behalf of the business and allows the business to allow others with a MyGov ID, such as your BAS agent or accountant, to act on your behalf. Your MyGov ID cannot be shared, as they can detect which device and location the account is being accessed from. It's personal to each individual and their device, and you can access the service from anywhere. Important note, just like two-factor authentication, be sure you disable the old device before you get a new device. And I've included a couple links that you'll find very helpful. So where do we go and get help? Okay, cyber.gov.au is the Australian Cybersecurity Centre. They provide easy to follow steps to protect yourself. MSPs, managed service providers, have a responsibility to their customers to protect their data and notify them of breaches or compromise. Make sure you check with them. An IT professional, ato.gov.au, and your industry associations. Of course, HIA will do everything they can do to keep up to date with as much as they can find as well. So today we discussed a lot. We've discussed passwords and cybercrime, password storage management, fraud using your email, two-factor authentication, and how MyGov ID replaces Auskey. On a final note, I'm not a cybersecurity specialist. I'm a BAS agent. And as such, I'm required to know these things. If I lose my phone, my iPad, have a break into my office, I'm required to report myself to the Cybercrime Commission and notify all of our customers if I don't have all of this in place. If I have this in place, there's no breach. No one can get anything. I can pick up right where I left off and work anywhere. I could have a fire or a flood tomorrow and not lose any information for myself or my clients, and I will have no downtime. So I'll open it up to questions. Carrie?
Thanks, Michelle. We covered a lot there.
It's a
Pretty
lot of
quickly.
information.
And I do have a couple of questions that have come in, but just before I get into those, I guess one of the things we want people to be aware of as well is, and I sort of mentioned at the beginning, that it needs to be something you talk about with your staff as well, because often they're the ones getting emails, and if there are suspicious links on those emails, they need to know that they're not to click on those. So it might be a good time to sit down with your staff and have a chat about, I guess, keeping your data safe and having processes in place, and also knowing what to do if you do have a breach. So
Absolutely.
and it's been actually a really interesting topic, because I did put together that information sheet and just learning, and I did catch up with the cybercrime people at a conference in Sydney, and some of the work that they're doing, and they're definitely trying to, I guess, get more small business owners aware. And the other place that people can get in is your website, so make sure that you're changing that password on your website as well, because you don't want people hacking into your website as well. So, and changing, I've seen examples where hackers have got in and changed things on the website just to be malicious. So let me go through some of these questions. You mentioned early on in the webinar how you can tick off, I guess, switch off the password, remember my password, and I'm guilty of that because I am absolutely hopeless. I set a password and I can't remember it 2 minutes later. So I have that auto password. So you mentioned how to do that on your desktop, but is there the same, what do you do for your phone if you've got, do you know?
Same thing. You go to your
Same thing.
settings and you tell it not to remember passwords, because
In
it will always offer, because it's easy.
Yeah.
So yes, it's the same, pretty much the same procedure is to get into settings, and usually there's a section for passwords and you can turn that off.
Okay.
It was scary. I went to buy a car on the weekend, and the young fellow he didn't believe me, and I could sit down and do that in 2 minutes, and they had about 100 passwords on their computer in the dealership.
Yeah, well, it's interesting
So
with that
scary.
password, the term. I've seen those stats as well. We must have been reading the same info sheet, but hopefully everyone won't change their password to "I don't like pineapple on my pizza," because that'll be the next. It's got to be something.
The
But yeah,
number of clients who have their dog's name and their birth year, just
yeah,
unbelievable. And to get your
yeah.
dog's name, all I have to do is get onto your Facebook page and look.
Yeah, and also I guess we've got to remind people that these hackers it's not usually personal. They're doing it to hundreds of thousands of people, and they run programs to do it. So the program will run through every word in the dictionary and every combination, and it will just keep going and going until it can get in. So they are relentless, and as you said, those longer phrases take them so much longer to get into.
And the other thing is to know that it's not immediate. If your password's under 9 characters, they've already got it. It's already stored, it's already been solved. They're just waiting for when to use it. The statistic is it's 18 months, and then they'll use it. So 18 months, they sell it to someone else on the dark web or someone to use it, and then it'll show up. So under 9 characters, they've already got it.
Wow. Okay. I'll be changing passwords after we jump off here, that's for sure. Because I'm guilty of all those things. So Janet said, our IT provider's private outside company tells us not to log off at night because they back up at this time. You're saying to log out. So how do we get around this?
if they back up at night, that's one thing. And then if they're telling you to do that, then it's their responsibility to make sure that no one can get in.
Yep. So they
So
have
it's
to,
great that you have an IT provider, but they're the ones that then have to safeguard your computers. It then becomes their responsibility.
yeah. So hopefully that helps, Janet. I guess just reinforce that with the IT provider, that if you're not logging off, that you know, they're going to be
Yeah,
responsible. So
it's very
um,
dangerous, especially over a weekend.
yeah, Tina said, I'm worried that I'll have more vulnerable information on my phone when my employer lists me as RAM, RAM.
Yep, the relationship access manager. So when they link your phone up, there's nothing they're getting in your phone. Not that, I mean, don't kid yourself. Your phone's listening to you all the time. That's why all those ads pop up after you've just been talking about something.
Yes, scary.
It's really scary. But what it does, it's just a personal identification that links your particular IP address in your phone to your employer's MyGov ID. It's not that there's any backwards information or anything. It's just that it links that IP address. Just as if you log on a different computer and try to use RAM, overseas somewhere, they may ask a question, but it's got to be particular. You've got to tick all those boxes to make sure it's you, your phone, and the device.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, was everybody aware of the change to Auskey? I know I don't work in this space, but it's all new to me. But hopefully everybody was already across the fact that Auskey is being
Well,
phased out.
historically in most small companies, you could only have Auskey on one computer unless you had it on a USB, which most companies didn't. So whoever was doing the BAS or doing anything on the APO site would sit at that computer. So if that computer disappeared, your Auskey disappeared, and you had to get a new one.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
now it's related to the person, not the business.
yeah. So Tina's asked, just with, I'm still worried about it. As RAM, don't I need to provide a 100-point ID, and isn't that ID stored on my phone?
No, it's uploaded automatically. So it's not stored on your phone. It's just uploaded automatically to the ATO with RAM. So it's all encrypted. So you're not actually taking photos of anything. You're just holding the ID in front of the camera so it can upload it. It doesn't store it.
Okay, so I probably would have thought, yeah, you took a photo of it and sent it through. So I can see where Tina was worried. You're sending through all your ID.
Yeah. You actually have to scan it. And if your Medicare card or your passport or your driver's license is just about to expire, make sure you upgrade it before you get your MyGov ID, because it won't work. I've seen that happen as well.
Mike has asked, is there anything we can do to minimize the risk of phone number porting, which gives access to the criminals to your phone?
That's a whole nother kettle of fish. I think, it's the same thing. If you keep your phones up to date, that's going to constantly been fought. I mean, it's going to constantly be pressed. But the thing is, if so many people don't upgrade to the latest iOS of Apple, the latest Android, because they don't like the changes that are coming in, or they think it's going to slow down, use the battery, or that sort of thing.
That's me. Yep.
Yep. So the issue with that is you're opening yourself up because the security protocols aren't tight enough.
So it's a tricky area, and I'm just thinking, if people think it would be of interest, I could talk to the I've got a contact at the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, and if there's enough interest, I can always get them to pop on a quick webinar one day, and we can probably get into some of the more specific sort of issues that some members have. So if you think that would be interesting, let me know just in the chat box there, and I can work on it. It will take the government a little while to get themselves organised, but we can try. So let me just go through some more questions because I'm aware of the time. Is there a way of knowing when a PDF contains malware before opening it? I know
No.
how I usually try and work it out is I check the grammar and how something's written, and that's my first indicator. But yeah, I think if you don't know where it's coming from,
And
don't
all
open
they're
it.
changing is numbers. They're changing phone numbers. They're changing bank account numbers. There's no grammar in it. So
Mm,
there really isn't. And see, the thing is, like when you check everything, it's coming from your email address. So it's
mm,
not coming from somewhere where it can be detected. It's coming directly from your email address. It doesn't
mm.
matter which email provider you use. It doesn't matter, but you just need to make sure you keep updating your Microsoft and your Windows and your Safari and keep them up to date. But no, there's no
Yeah.
way to.
I think Tiffany means if she gets an email with a PDF, you know, like people are often sending through documents when you're in our industry. So is there a way to check? And I guess that's again having that malware protector on your computer so that it will um, I guess isolate it.
Malwarebytes is really good. I use two things. I use, because one of my sons is in IT as well, so I use Malwarebytes, which is free, and the other one I use is called CC Cleaner. They're both things that I run on my system, once every 2 weeks, sometimes more. But once you get rid of everything, things don't really come in the same way for some reason. I don't seem to get nearly as many, but it just constantly watches your computer. And it's different from a virus protection.
Mm. Okay, sorry, there's lots of questions and comments coming through, and they push all the others up to the top. Sharon said, yeah, so Sharon was just verifying. It doesn't upload, it just verifies with the issuer of the document. That's the MyGov ID again. Ben, what about Oz Post Digital ID? Is that similar to MyGov ID?
No, it's a completely different thing.
Okay. Let me see.
Australia Post isn't. It doesn't. They don't work for the government. MyGov ID is directly with the ATO and the Australian government.
Okay. Janet, if you subscribe to a paid VPN service, is that a safer way to log in to the internet?
According to my son, it's completely unnecessary. What that does is it just makes sure that you can't tell where your IP address is coming from. So they just kind of bounce them around to different locations. But for most small businesses, there's no point in it. It's just you're buying an extra service that's not needed.
Would you use it though if you're, I heard once if you go to like a cafe and log into the cafe's Wi-Fi, you should have some added protection. You shouldn't do it really, should you? Do your
Well,
banking online.
that's the thing. Like if you're doing something, like if you're using your own your mobile data, you're pretty safe. If you're using an open Wi-Fi, whether it's in McDonald's or a cafe or on the train, wherever, you're pretty open to be hacked while you're sitting there. Doing your banking, doing pretty much anything because it's an open connection. It's not secure.
Yep. When I think Loretta's referring to the example you gave where the BSB or the banking details was changed. So asking, does a hacker get into your business computer remotely? And was the invoice changed by the hacker getting into a webmail?
Yes. No, it was actually chat. This particular one was a Hotmail account. My most recent was a Hotmail account. I've got another one that was on Outlook. I've had one on Google as well. But they get in, they just change all the PDFs, even if you've already sent them, and they notify everyone that there was a mistake made, and these are their new bank details.
Yeah, and they have all the contact details, don't they, in your email folders?
That's right. They just resend. They can search looking on invoices or looking on statements and resend them all. And they
Yeah.
keep doing it until they get caught.
And usually they're probably somewhere offshore and that money's gone.
Long gone. And the
Yeah.
bank won't reimburse it. The credit card companies won't reimburse it. The insurance won't reimburse it because it came from your email address. And you have no
Yeah.
way to prove that you didn't do it.
Yeah, so definitely also a tip again for your staff if your staff happen to be the ones doing the payment of invoice. So it's not just necessarily your invoices being changed that you're sending out to customers. It might be the invoices coming to you. And I know examples of that firsthand where the information's been changed and they were just lucky because they actually rang the business owner and they knew them personally, so they could find out before they made the payment.
Call every single one.
Yeah, Elizabeth said we had our statement from December to a customer with a changed account number. Oh, okay.
Happens.
Yeah, and it's happening more frequently, isn't it? Especially if they,
Happening a lot more frequently.
yeah. And it's a numbers game, isn't it? The more they try, the.
Yes.
So Tina's asked, what's the safest way to send out an invoice to clients?
It's still a safe way if you keep your software and up to date and you change your passwords regularly or you use a password manager. Then it doesn't they might be able to get in today, but they can't get in tomorrow. So if you keep every single password as it is today, then you're fully open. If you change them all to phrases, long things, or with an authenticator or with a password manager, then they can't get in, even though they could get in last week.
And Gavin said we had the client's email account hacked with bank accounts changed. We no longer put our bank details on our invoices, but you just have to be careful. The hackers don't actually put them on your invoices.
That's exactly right. And and if you're a subcontractor, we've got to have your bank details on your invoice. That's one of the things that's like when you do your taxable payments and your report in Xero, you have to put in the bank details. So your registered address, your bank details, your everything, it's all there.
Colleen asked, Michelle, what was the other product you mentioned? Something cleaner.
CC Cleaner.
CC, as in the letter C, is it?
Yes, as in double C. Yeah, C Cleaner. And I can't actually remember what that stands for, but I just know that as soon as I ask my son, I get him to check my computer every month because I really don't want to go to the Cybercrime Commission to report myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked him, so I said to him, what do I need to do? Give me the whole steps. And so now it's really simple. Everything's always up to date. I run CC Cleaner, I run malware, and it reminds me when I need to update it, when I need to run it, so that it's just sitting there. And it's not taking up bandwidth. It's not making my computer slow. It just works.
But do we become so paranoid now? I'm now paranoid about downloading virus protectors and apps that are supposed to be protecting my things. You really have to make sure that you're downloading the right program, don't you?
You do. I mean, you do a lot of research. Talk to your IT professionals. I mean, sometimes, they don't mind if just make a phone call and say, look, I'm looking for something that's going to keep my computer nice and clean, make it faster, more secure. What do you recommend? And most of the time, they don't even care. That's not something they make money on. They just want you to protect your computer. So it's pretty simple. It's like, I use the example, it's like when you go to the butcher and ask them how to cook the meat. Same thing. Go to your IT professionals, go to your computer guys. They'll answer that in 2 seconds.
Yeah. So you mentioned LastPass Manager, and you download that from an app on your phone, Michelle asked. And also, is that the best one that you know of, or that's what you use, isn't it?
I use LastPass, and there are a lot. I mean, Dashlane and LastPass are both just as good as each other. It depends. It's like an iPhone and Android. It's the same kind of thing. Which people like. The reason I like LastPass is because I can have secure folders for each of my clients. So I have to have one big phrase as my master password, and then if you load it on your computer first and then load it onto your phones, everything is all linked together. So, and whenever I make a new password, it asks me if I want to save it on my computer, and it puts it on my phone as well, and my iPad. And it tells me, it does an audit every once in a while, so it tells me you've got too many passwords the same, you've got too many passwords that are too weak. So even though I've got a master pass to get into those, it's still checking all my individual passwords as well.
Okay. Elizabeth, hopefully you didn't lose too much money. Elizabeth mentioned we also had an ABA file intercepted from the time we created it on our accounting system to the time we uploaded it to the bank, where they got in and changed the account number in that time.
Wow. And I have lots of clients that send the ABA files through their email. And so if somebody's watching, it's that easy to just get that ABA file and do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as the software, the cloud accounting software gets better, you'll be able to pay your bills directly from, you know, Xero and MyOb and QuickBooks. You'll be able to pay it directly just by logging in with your, you know, 9 or 12 or whatever digit number it is. But in the meantime, we've just got to be smart about it.
Definitely. Well, that was, I think, the last question. So I was just quickly typing in there. If anybody had any last questions before we finish up, you can probably hear me typing. We will take those. Otherwise, we're going to be doing another webinar in a few weeks or months, aren't we, Michelle? We're just working on it at the moment.
Yep, we are.
In the process. If you need any more, yeah, hopefully people can access that handout. I attached it, but I'll also attach it again when I send out the link to the recording. It's just got some information around some of the terms that I talked about early in the webinar. This is a really, I guess, a very big topic, and unfortunately, scammers are changing their the ways they're doing things every other day. So there are some online links that I will send through as well to some of the government bodies that can keep you updated on the latest scams and what's happening. I will look into doing something with the cyber security guys. They're wanting to get in front of more small business owners and are aware of how much money people are losing. So Carmen, this recording should be, it just depends on how quickly my website people can upload it, but it's usually a few days at the moment to try and get something up onto our website. So it should be available in a few days' time. So Michelle, was there anything you wanted to say before I let you go? And
No, I really try to cover the things that are going to make a difference to you right now, because it is such a big topic, and it
yep.
just leads straight into everything else that we've been talking about. So I think our next webinar, we've had a lot of interest in the receipt capture apps and receipt bank in particular, and so I've got them working to get something together. It wasn't tradie enough for me, so I rejected it.
They're starting again.
Yes.
Yeah, so well, we hope everyone took a few things out of, at least one or two things out of today, and hopefully going to go and have a look at your passwords. I know I definitely am. Didn't realize how easy it was for people to get in.
I had to show you, it's just that easy.
And it's scary. I think also, I think that idea that perhaps, yeah, it's not being used straight away, but sold online and passed around, and who knows when it's all going to pop up. So, and I know everybody's probably seen cases of it nowadays, and people hacking into Facebook pages and things. So definitely, if you do one thing today, it's have a look at those passwords. Please take a look at the survey at the end of this webinar. There's a space there for you to add any feedback and any topics that you want to know more about. There's always more we can be covering. We just got to know what's relevant to you. So thanks again, Michelle. Thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon in beautiful sunny Central Coast. And thank you to everyone joining us. Hi, Susie over in South Australia. Hope everything's good in South Australia and the fires are all okay over there. And keep an eye out next week, actually next Wednesday, I have a webinar specifically for people in the kitchen and bathroom area. So if you work in kitchens and bathrooms and interiors, and you want some tips on how to market your business or how to stand out, that's going to be with one of my regular presenters, Catherine Grace. So tune in for that. I'll be sending out the link for that shortly. So thanks again, everybody, and have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Carrie. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.